This is a wonderful dive in the ocean. Wait a minute. What is that? What is that in the distance? Excuse me? Why is the Jaws theme playing? Oh god. Oh no! Wait, hold up. I thought this music was just for sharks. Alright, fair point. Carry on. Aw, son of a... Heyho Friendos, my name is Duplex. I go by they, he pronouns, and today we're gonna be talking about Perucetus Colossus. What qualifies me to talk about this subject? Does having a hyperfixation count? I don't have a degree in science. I don't even have a degree in STEM. I have a degree in general studio art, so don't take me too seriously. I will cry. I'm getting my information from reliable sources, that being said, like the paper. It's just it's being funneled through the mouth of a dumbass. I am literally a gecko with a human form. What did you expect? This video is mostly going to be about Perucetus Colossus, but it's also going to be about random questions that I have and the art behind Perucetus Colossus. Because, well, I mean, I'm an art channel. What did you expect? Did you really think that I was gonna go for a normal paleo video? Have you seen this channel before? Nothing about me is normal. Buckle up, Buttercup. We're about to go for a wild ride. Just like many paleo enthusiasts, we have many questions. What the hell was nature smoking in the Jurassic? What is the Tully Monstrum? And my favorite question that'll make any paleo enthusiast break down and cry, was Spinosaurus semi-aquatic or not? Everyone ignore the fact that I misspelled dugong and manatee, but not Perucetus somehow. The question that I really want to tackle today, though, is what the hell is up with Perucetus Colossus? And where did all this cool paleo art come from? When I first saw quite a few of these reconstructions going around, I had a lot of questions. Number one, why is it so big? Number two, why does it have a manatee tail? And number three, why is it being depicted as either shoveling its nose in the ground like an underwater puppy or eating seagrass? I am here to, hopefully, answer some of those questions. This is An Artist Poorly Explains Perucetus Colossus. Or, as I've lovingly been calling it in passing, Perucetus.
Damn me and my lack of self-respect.
I guess I should explain what this thing's name means, huh? Hey, Editing Duplex here, saying that I call Perucetus Colossus a thing a lot in this video, and I think I called the manatee a thing at some point for a gag. But regardless, I know some people aren't gonna be super chill with that, and I just want to come in here and say that I know that that's kind of weird, and that I've been trying to change it. I only kind of noticed this after I had recorded and edited this whole thing. After you listen to yourself calling a once living being and a living being a thing so many times, you're like, huh, that's a little odd. That's a little strange. I just wanted to say that I know it's a little weird and that I'm trying to change that about my vocabulary. Anyway, back to the thing. I gotta say, the name is really straightforward. I'm almost kind of surprised. Its name means colossal Peruvian whale, because it's a colossal whale, and it was found in Peru. Southern Peru. Southern Peru, specifically the Ica province. I'm almost taken aback with how simple and straightforward this name is, because God knows that scientists have had an interesting history of naming things in probably the worst ways you possibly could. I'm looking at you, mantis shrimp! You're not a mantis! And you're not even a shrimp! You are, however, a gay icon.
More passion, more energy, more footwork.
So this thing was kicking it in the ocean about 39.8 million to 37.84 million years ago. As I said, this chunky boy was found in the Ica province of Peru, and his dig was headed up by one Mario Umbina. I always love going onto Twitter and seeing the new paleo art that's just come out, and I look at the paleo art and compare it to the holotype, and I always have to ask, how? That's usually when I go around to other people's videos and watch them. Highly recommend these, by the way, if you're looking for a more in-depth analysis of Perucetus Colossus. This holotype has 13 vertebrae, 4 ribs, and the right chunk of the vestigial pelvic girdle. You should put a pin in that pelvic girdle, by the way. It's going to be important in a second. Now, considering I keep calling this a whale, you'd probably be right in assuming that this thing is a cetacean, but it's not directly related to any of our modern-day cetaceans. So what family does it belong to? The Basilosaurids. Now, if you knew nothing about this discovery, but somehow know quite a lot about whale evolution, you probably heard me say that, and were like, you're joking me, right, man? No, I'm not. This thing, this big chunky bitch, is a basilosaurid. For those out of the paleontology loop, basilosaurids are, an interesting group of animals, to say the least. To get a good idea of this family, I think we should look at the namesake of this family, Basilosaurus, who was discovered back in 1834 and happens to be the first prehistoric whale we ever found. This dude's name translates to king lizard, and that's because when they first discovered it, they thought that it was a massive snake. And I do not blame them. Look at this thing's body plan. You're gonna tell me that these two things are related? Why? Now, Basilosaurus, and by extension many of the Basilosaurids, have been described as being like eels with flippers, which is just a horrifying mental image, if I may say. Why does everything want to eat me today? Do you remember that pin? We're unpinning it. Perucetus Colossus's pelvic girdle is highly reduced to the point of being vestigial, much like every other Basilosaurid. But the thing that really marks it as a Basilosaurid is the god damn it. Hold on one sec.
Acetabulum.
Why, thank you, Cambridge Dictionary. I do find it very helpful to point out this anatomy in humans so that you can get a general idea of what I'm talking about. It's this. It's, the socket your femur goes into. Your femur goes into an acid tablet. Did you know that? I didn't. Who knew that bones could do drugs? I have no mouth, but I must drugs. I mentioned this acid tablet specifically because while I was doing research, not a single one of the videos that I looked at told me why they thought that this was a basilosaurid, and it has everything to do with the acetabulum and how it compares to other basilosaurids. So, now you know. Speaking more thoroughly about its bones, I mean, just look at them. They're so weird, right? Like, look at this vertebrae. Look at it. It looks like one of those paper throwing stars that you make in the 3rd grade to impress your friends. Like one of those really funky fidget spinners that the people that are really into them get into. Like, I shouldn't be able to show this on YouTube because it almost looks like a sex thing. Why do these bones look so odd? I got a compact word for you. Pachyosclerosis. What do you mean it's a compound word, not a compact word? Shut up. Pachyosclerosis is a compound condition where your bones get more dense and more thick. Pachyostosis meaning the thickening of bones, meaning more bone growth on the outside, and osteosclerosis, I have osteoporosis. Holy shit, that was 2016 Duplex just coming back from the grave. Get back in your dirt prison, you little bitch. Osteosclerosis, meaning that it becomes denser because there's more compact bone. Now, the paper draws a comparison here between mammalian bones and baguettes, and I think that's the greatest thing I've ever read in a scientific paper. The crust of the baguette being akin to the outer layer of bone, which is, the compact bone, and then the inner being akin to, well, the soft and squishy parts of bread, the good bits. Using that as a comparison, it's like Perucetus Colossus's bones are primarily crust, which is really strange for most animals, as you can imagine. Also, how does it feel knowing that your bones are being akin to a baguette right now? And that is actually a good analogy. So what does that mean for our chunky whale friend? Well, it means that this thing's bones is funky. That is not to say that Pachyosclerosis is unheard of in Basilosaurids. Quite the opposite, it's a landmark trait for one of their subfamilies, the Pachycetes. The thing that makes Perucetus Colossus so special in this regard is the fact that all of it has Pachyosclerosis, not just certain parts like with the Pachycetes. This level of Pachyosclerosis is only rivaled in one other group of mammals, and they just so happen to also be marine mammals. You know them, you love them, it's the Sirenians! I just really like Sirenians, okay? I have no other explanation. Specifically, Perucetus Colossus gets compared to the manatees rather than the dugong. Like manatees, Basilosaurids in general prefer more coastal waters. Not the coast, but more coastal waters. In comparison, dugongs prefer more open waters. Manatees also have a very, very similar rate of Pachyosclerosis in comparison to Perucetus Colossus. Now, I have actually mostly held off talking about the body mass estimate for Perucetus Colossus, because honestly, everyone and their mother has already talked about it. If you're watching this and have already watched a singular other video about Perucetus Colossus, you already know what I'm going to say. This thing's body mass estimate is fucking ridiculous. On the lower end, if we're using a mass estimate based off of the Sirenians, we get about 85 tons, which isn't even that bad. Like, that's less than an average male blue whale. Now, if we use a mass estimate based off of extant stations, we get an absolutely mind-boggling 340 tons. For comparison, the largest blue whale we have on record, as of recording this, was 199 tons. And they do not normally come that big. This specific blue whale just happened to be able to gorge itself to that size. This mass estimate is bonkers. Bullshit bonkers, if you will. This thing's skeleton alone is 5.3 to 7.6 tons. That is 2 to 2.9 times as much as a 25 meter, 82 feet and some change, blue whale skeleton. Now, Perucetus Colossus's body mass is probably somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. I think that the mean number that was settled upon was around 185, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Perucetus Colossus's length is a bit harder to calculate because, as I said earlier, we don't really have a lot of it, we don't have all of the vertebrae, and we sure as hell don't have a skull. But all of the sources that I'm seeing say it's about 17 to 20 meters, or 55 to 65 feet, which is... that's a big boy. I also want to remind everyone that this thing would have preferred more coastal waters, like the manatee does, and not like its extant relatives, who prefer more open waters. So, like, That's terrifying. But that shouldn't matter too much, because it's depicted as eating seagrass, right? That makes it an herbivore, right? Right? You're an herbivore. Right? Now this is where I kind of have a bone to pick with the paper, because this singular sentence caused me to delay this video an absolute shit ton, because I had to make sure that I was researching all of this right, and I wasn't just making stupid assumptions based off of my limited knowledge. So like, as soon as I read this sentence that it's highly unlikely because it would be the only herbivorous cetacean, immediately I was like, that cannot be the only reason. There has to be other reasons, right? Because trying to wrap my head around this thing being herbivorous is going to give me an aneurysm. They also state a little bit further down from that herbivorous hypothesis that the amount of food that it would need to live would kind of be a lot. This is going to become very important in a minute. This specific point in the paper made me research a ton of stuff about specifically Sirenians and how they work, because they're confusing to me. Now, a lot of the information that I'm about to regurgitate out at your face comes from Professor Tracy Rogers. She has a YouTube channel that has a lot of really cool, interesting videos that were instrumental in me trying to figure out how herbivorous marine mammals work. So Tracy Rogers, I thank you. As of time of recording this, there is only 4 herbivorous marine mammals. And they're all related to each other. They're the I'm not gonna do that joke again. Hi, Editing Duplex here. I don't know why I didn't mention this before, but the whole reason why the paper thinks that Perucetus Colossus could have been herbivorous is because of its connection to the manatee. So, yeah, I don't know why I didn't mention that. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled dumpster fire. It's the Sirenians, which sport 4 unique species, 3 of which are manatees, and 1 of which is a dugong. Did you know that there's only 1 species of dugong? I didn't know that. So why aren't there more herbivorous marine mammals? Well, because being a herbivore in the ocean kinda blows. Part of the big issue is that marine herbivores have challenges that marine carnivores, and by extension, land herbivores don't have to deal with. Something that I feel like a lot of people don't think about is the fact that water is a fantastic conductor of heat, unlike air. And, yeah, that's kind of an issue whenever you live in the ocean full time. This is what puts the minimum, or as I'm going to be calling it, the floor, of body masses for marine mammals. You have to be big enough due to gigantism to be able to conduct enough heat to keep yourself warm, to keep yourself alive. This is where the square cube law comes into play, and yeah, we're getting into mathematics because biology is difficult. The square cube law basically says that the more surface area you have, you will grow volume quicker than you will surface area. Basically, the bigger you are, the more volume you have, and the more volume you have, the more heat you can produce to keep yourself alive. And if you look at a Sirenian, your first reaction is to probably think that thing is like 90% fat storage. Funny story, it's not. Comparatively, Sirenians actually have, like, less body mass than almost all of the other marine mammals that we know of. The reason why they're so round is because they have complex gut structures that they need to get the most nutrients out of their food, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, if land cows are doing that shit, why would the sea cows not do the exact same thing? So why is the whole heating problem not really an issue for marine carnivores? How are they able to get so big? Well, if you haven't noticed, there's not a lot of plants in the ocean. But you know what there is an absolute bucket ton in the ocean? Meat. Don't you know, there's meat in the ocean? Now I could go on a huge tangent on how it's really interesting to me how, like, the circumstances of the ocean and how it exists makes it harder for marine mammals that are herbivorous to survive, and how that's, like, an interesting consequence of having a shit ton of water all in one place. But, like, that's not what this video is about, and I don't feel like putting my audience to sleep. Not today. If I'm going to put you to sleep, it's going to be with a tranquilizer dart. Don't worry about it. That is all to say that we don't really know a lot about the paleoecology of the time, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm not about to do another week's worth of research to get this video out. It's been like 3 months. But if Perucetus Colossus did happen to be herbivorous, that would have quite significant ramifications on the paleoecology of the time. Right? Right? Like, I'm making a logical assumption here? I think? Yeah, we're just gonna go with it and hope for the best. It would mean that the paleoecology facilitated enough plant growth to feed something the size of my insecurities. You know how I said that body heat is what put a floor on body masses for marine mammals? What, pray tell, puts the ceiling on it? Food. How much food you can eat. The reason why blue whales are able to get so massive is because, well, they're able to take advantage of the schooling behaviors of krill. In fact, many cetaceans take advantage of the schooling behavior of krill, fish, or crustaceans. Also, like, has there ever been a case of a marine mammal specifically whose family evolves to eat one thing, then evolving to eat another thing, which quite possibly would be less abundant? This could just be my gecko brain not thinking of something really obvious, or perhaps it's obvious to the paleontologist, but just not to me. Regardless, if you have any information about any of the questions that I've asked, or any comments about something I might have messed up in this video, then go on ahead and put them in the comment section below. I genuinely want to have a conversation about this. Nobody else around me wants to talk about paleontology. Any diet suggested for Perucetus colossus is purely speculative. Until more research comes out, we're not going to know what this thing ate, but the paper specifically states that the most likely hypothesis is that it scavenged the sea floor, either for crustaceans or anything that's meat-filled, I guess. There's also been talk about it possibly scavenging for carcasses, which, as you can probably tell by my reconstruction, I like that theory a lot. So do I think Perucetus colossus is herbivorous? No, but like, I'm open to be proven wrong. I mean, this rendition is super cool. I would be very happy if this was real. I guess we're just gonna have to wait until Earth drops an update for this thing, and that might be a while. All of these reconstructions were given to me directly by Destin from Edge, who has been instrumental in making this video happen and making this YouTube channel happen, has been just an amazing supporter of me and my creative endeavors. I really can't thank him enough, because he's also the reason why I was able to get my grubby little fingies on the paper. Have I mentioned how much I fucking hate the academic paywall? Edge gave me all of the pictures that he used for his video, and I wanted to pick through my favorite ones and talk about them and what I find really interesting about them artistically. The reconstructions and how fast they were made is really what drew me to this subject in the first place, because these images are going to be what is solidified in the paleo enthusiast's mind of what Perucetus colossus looks like. To understand the pieces themselves, I had to understand the creature behind them. Not only that, I had to trace back to where paleo artists were getting their inspiration from. What were they pulling from? Where did the game of paleo art telephone start? But I wanted to pick the reconstructions that a lot of paleo YouTubers were using, because that would be the one that paleo enthusiasts would be the most familiar with. And as such, I think we should start with the art from the paper. Can you tell I forgot to say anything about this? Because it's me, it's editing Duplex, that has to say the nice things about this piece. It has a very interesting color scheme that's pretty much the exact opposite of what most people that I saw went for. Mostly a lot of us went for incredibly deep blues and vibrant blues at that. This person went for a far more muted color palette, and I kind of appreciate it for how much it brings out Perucetus Colossus from the background and pulls your attention towards it. It feels like a diagram of a still living animal, and that vibe is there for a reason. This dude does a ton of diagram-esque work, and just looking through his stuff is an absolute treat. Like with this artist and all of the artists that I'm going to be mentioning throughout this entire section, you can find them and their links in the description box below. I highly recommend going and giving all of these artists your love. Paleo artists are the cornerstone of our community, and we wouldn't have a good concept of what a lot of these creatures look like without them. The paper has a section in here right underneath the piece that says that the bottom walking and the tail were directly ripped from manatees because they have the most similar amount of pachyostosis, which is interesting, but I don't know if, like, a manatee tail, you can just slap a manatee tail on a cetacean and call it a day. That is not at all me ripping on Alberto, by the way, the man who actually made these pieces, because these pieces are gorgeous. And yes, I did say pieces, because there are multiple pieces from Alberto Gennari? Hold up. It's Gennari. Starting out strong there, Duplex. Shut up, like you would have done any better. Did I ever mention the sawfish? Oh yeah, the sawfish in the image? That guy was also found in the same formation, or around the same formation. I can't really remember off the top of my head. The point is, it's supposed to be there for a reason. So Jamie Brand made these two, both the open mouth Perucetus Colossus that looks like it's a very happy boy, a very happy murderous little boy. No, that's a chunk. Also, the blue whale and Perucetus Colossus side by side, which I'm sure you've seen multiple times. There is no other way to put this piece other than terrifying, because just imagine you're having a happy little dip in the ocean, and you just happen to look out, and this is staring at you! Like, how the f*** am I supposed to react to that, man? Am I just supposed to Control-Alt-Delete myself from life? Like, oh, guess I'll die! I have no idea if this was intentional or not, but I feel like the artist might be playing on the fact that as human beings, we often are drawn to faces that look like people faces. And that looks like a people face to me. I don't know about y'all. I feel like this piece is skirting the line in between horror and humor without even really intending to. And I love that. I just adore it. Is this reading way too far into it? Yeah, absolutely. Fight me. I also just love how the shark looks like it's trying to get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible. Getting out of there as quickly as possible to escape from this massive whale bitch. Moving on to Arturo Garcia. Yeah. This one depicts a mother and a calf both scavenging for food, like the mother showing the calf how to scavenge for food on the seabed. And I just love this. Look at this little Perucetus Colossus, baby. Oh my god! This diver is a braver man than I am, because I mean, I would not be brave enough to even take jack shit down there, let alone a f***ing tape measure. I don't know what you're measuring with that shit, dude. I'm pretty sure that is not long enough. I love how much the mother and calf take up the space. Like, they're making a perfect triangular shape at either side of the canvas, and then you have this diver in the middle, which pulls your eye to him, because he's the only one wearing yellow. So that contrast just pulls your eye straight there. And I also noticed this a little bit later, but is that a bit of speculative marking I'm seeing here? Ooh! You'll see a little bit later that a lot of people in their reconstructions went a bit crazy with their speculative markings, and I am so down for it. With my piece, I just used the basic counter shading that modern day cetaceans have. Well, most of them, except for the murder pandas. I just think it's cute that a mother Perucetus Colossus is with her baby chunk. It's a mama chunk and a baby chunk. Oh! This is, Hudari the Overthinker. And this is the only piece that I saw of Perucetus Colossus being shown as being herbivorous. Now you might be thinking, well, you disagree with this kind of reconstruction, so aren't you a little upset about it? No, not at all. Who the f would get upset at something like this? It's not like the paleo community ever has harassed somebody over speculatively drawing other prehistoric creatures in a way that they find fun and entertaining and... Oh, fuck. I wanted to use Gator's Hippo Triceratops reconstruction as an example because the paleo community sometimes decides to get a wild stick up its ass and be an absolute asshole. I hate to inform all of you of this, but speculative reconstructions do not at all have to be accurate. Like, speculative does not mean realistic, it just means speculative. I also just wanted to drop this in the video somewhere, but I couldn't really find a place for it, so I figured right here would be a good place considering I know that some people might assume, because I'm not for the herbivorous hypothesis, that I might have an issue with this speculative art, which, by the way, I haven't said anything about this art, but this is probably one of the most beautiful pieces of Perucetus Colossus I have ever seen. The beautifully puffy painted clouds, how beautifully painted Perucetus Colossus is in here. I know I use the same adjective twice, but I don't give a shit. Look at this piece, man! The water trails that these giant penguins are giving off when they dive into the water, the bed of seagrass on the bottom, the way that Perucetus Colossus is depicted as having this incredibly mossy back is something that influenced my own piece, as you'll notice. Everything about this piece, from where the detail was put in to where it wasn't put, is just masterfully crafted. Wait a minute. What? Why do the penguins have red eyes? Why do the penguins have red eyes?
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
How do I pronounce this name? Oh god. This absolutely wonderful artist, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, did this absolutely amazing piece, which is just probably one of the best compositionally I've seen so far. Another piece where humans are included for scale. I am so down for that. I love it. I absolutely respect this person not wanting to do anything below, like, the flippers here, because trying to figure out how on earth to reconstruct this thing past that point has been kind of a nightmare for me too, so I get it. I love the contrast of this piece. They've got like a really simple, like triangular composition going on here. I think they might have even used the golden ratio for it just looking at it, though I could be wrong. Regardless, the contrast of the shiny head of Perucetus Colossus and the water above it, and the dark underneath of the sea below, and by contrast the diver, is just beautiful. Not to mention the texturing. I mean, look at that! Unlike with the Overthinkers piece, where their depiction of Perucetus Colossus was a lot softer in the brushstrokes, this is a lot more scratchy, and it gives it a lot more texture. Ugh. The texture is just so f***ing perfect for Perucetus. I wish I would have done it on my own piece now, thinking about it, because, personally, I think the Perucetus didn't really have enough texture on their skin for my liking, but I couldn't really figure out what to do with it, so I just left it as is. Wish I would have done this. I also noticed a bit of speculative marking on this one, like almost counter shading, but not, as it stops like right below the flipper line. Like, love that. This is from Plasma Lizard on Reddit. Thank you for having a name that is just common words. Big preach. I think that this image shows off the depth of water a lot better than some of the other ones that I've chosen, because just the haziness of the bottom where the kelp is just, it feels so right. You know what I mean? It fits the environment very, very well. The kelp forest getting slowly more hazy as you get further and further back because of the water is just, beautiful. I know I keep saying beautiful and amazing, but what I really mean to say is well executed, because honestly, this is something that I struggle with in my own work a lot. Where do you put the detail and where do you not mess with it is a really hard balance to strike for me personally. This guy's got a little bit of counter shading going on along with the speckles on the back, which is just fits Perucetus Colossus very well, I believe. The contrast in this image, again, is just immaculate. Like, the way that the water is so shiny and bright from the left side of the screen, and it beams down on Perucetus Colossus, just, it's so beautiful. It's so perfect. The lighting fits so well, nothing seems out of place. The lighting gives me good brain goop, is what I'm trying to say. Now we're gonna finish with one of my favorites, which has, like, an incredibly speculative patterning, but I don't care, it's beautiful. This is from Sly on Twitter. Again, link in the description if you want to see any of these artists. Their links are in the description in the order that I talked about them. Sly did this absolutely amazing Perucetus Colossus where they look like they have almost a polka dotted pattern on the back of them, and I don't know why, but it's just so cute, right? Also, I wouldn't say that Sly gave Perucetus Colossus a manatee tail. It almost feels more like a paddle than it does like the round manatee tail. It almost looks like the only thing I can compare it to is like a platypus's tail. Look at this silly little baby shoving its face in the ground. Oh, he's scavenging for so many crustaceans. Look at the little guy. This is one of the only pieces that I covered that was traditional, and there is a reason. This is an absolutely fantastic traditional piece. The line work is so steady and beautiful. It's very thin lines with a lot of stippling and texture to give it more of a bumpy surface, along with using the pencils to create this nice rigid texture. This pencil texture just fits Perucetus Colossus really, really well. I also just love the color choice. It makes it stand out amongst the lineup of all the others that I picked. Also, Sly gets an extra shout out because they told me happy birthday on my birthday, so they get an extra shout out for being cool. That being said, let's wrap up this video so that I can finally get it out of my brain and I can start working on something else. Hopefully my hyperfixation will be satisfied now, so that I can finally move on to another hyperfixation. I didn't talk a lot about my own reconstruction of Perucetus Colossus, but I definitely wanted to make them a scavenger of corpses rather than like a sweet little sea puppy sticking their nose in the sand and wriggling around trying to search for crustaceans. I also just kind of put a couple of just random sea creatures around like a moray eel, since I know that moray eels were alive at the time. I have no idea if they would have been in the same area. Why didn't I use the sawfish that literally everybody else used? Because I didn't wanna. Now thinking about it, I think one of the only creatures that would be big enough to facilitate a corpse this big would be another Perucetus Colossus. So this thing looking so happy to eat this corpse, it might be cannibalism, I don't know. Wonderful. What a wonderful way to end a video. If you like this video, do all the things that all the other YouTubers tell you to do, and stuff. You can find me on a many of social media, but I'm most active on Twitter. If you want to see my pieces, I definitely recommend going there. And again, a big thank you to Edge for facilitating this video, for getting me the paper, for just being an all-around awesome dude and believing that I can actually do this. So, thank you, and thank everybody who's watching. Bye-bye! Hello, it's end of the video duplex, here to say I'm so sorry this took so many months. I'm actually still kinda nervous to publish this because I'm afraid that I've gotten something horribly wrong, and the entire comment section is gonna be about how wrong I am. I kinda lost my whole motivation to do videos for a couple of months, and with the holidays happening and everything, I was just kinda like, we'll do it next year. And lo and behold, it's next year. I'm not entirely sure what next video is going to be about. I've thought about making a video on, like, a lot of different shit. I've thought about making a video on enchanted portals. I've thought about making a video on the new Poppy Playtime that literally just came out as I'm editing this right now. I've thought about doing a video on Hazbin Hotel about my own personal fossil hunting. Or I might do an art challenge again, like I did in my first video. But, you know, we'll see. Whatever I end up doing, I know I'm gonna have fun doing it, because these videos are really fun to make, honestly. The editing process is difficult, but it's interesting, and I'm having a blast. Thank you to those who listened to the end, and now, officially, goodbye! God, I hope the next video doesn't take 5 months.